Hey, I want to know something.
Yes, ma'am.
Why'd you bring me all the way to Iowa?
Good news, we're going shopping.
We're going shopping. What are we shopping for?
What are we going shopping for?
It better be a camper.
Well, it's close, kinda. It's a trailer.
A trailer.
And it goes
Can
behind.
I sleep in it?
It goes behind a truck.
Can I sleep in it?
I'm not for sure if you want to sleep in it. Let's go see what this place has to offer.
Can we add to it?
Maybe. All right, we have traveled all the way to Pella, Iowa, to Thunder Creek Trailer Manufacturing, fuel trailers. Did I get that right?
That is right.
And I have found Chad.
Yep.
So behind us, I feel like I'm on the family farm. This is more like a farm than a manufacturing facility.
Well, you are. So our business started out as a farming operation, and we started manufacturing in 1995 to supplement some of the farm income. And so that's what this has grown out of. So
like a lot of farmers in the downtime, you found something to offset that.
Yep.
And that turned into fuel trailer manufacturing. Is that correct?
Yep. We started out by building a lot of farm equipment and modifying it on our own farm, and then being right on the highway in the 4-lane here, that's where the idea of the fuel trailer came from, for transporting our own fuel on our farm.
That's absolutely incredible. So this is your grandparents' old house?
My grandparents used to live here. My dad grew up on this farm, and you can see from the grain bins in the back, still active farm on the back side, but original barn that we have offices in, and the little shed behind us is actually an original building that Lauren and his dad did some manufacturing on in 70s.
So I'm not going to be Mr. Obvious here, but it looks like the Thunder Creek business has kind of taken over the farm.
It is drastically taken over. So our main job and income anymore is the manufacturing, and we rent the farm out, but still farming is part of who we are and what we do. So
awesome. So what's the chances of getting a little tour around this place?
Let's go.
Awesome. So this is the beginning of the Thunder Creek fuel trailers right here, huh?
That is it. So this is where all the product comes in. This is our fabrication department, so this is where the flat steel comes in, and we start processing it.
So I guess we'll see more of this as we go along, but you guys manufacture and produce a lot of your own stuff. So a lot of this stuff comes in as flat plate steel, and then you guys cut it, shape it, carve it, fold it, bend it, weld it, whatever it takes to make it happen.
Yep. In our manufacturing process, we try to stay as vertically integrated as we can, so that we have the control over our process, our timing, and meeting our deadlines to our customers.
That's got to be even more important in the COVID world.
Yes. Yeah, that is one of the things that helped us stay producing without any shutdowns during COVID, was the ability to be able to make sure that we had our product when we needed it, where we need it, to still produce it for our customers.
So is this step one right here?
So this is step one. We bring the flat stock on. We have 2 lasers. This is one of them operation. They both run with automation. So we'll put the flat steel in. The automation will load the laser. It'll cut the parts, and then it'll load the laser onto the top shelf. And then behind us we have tables full of parts that we will pick.
So just to make sure I understand this correctly, this is the loading table. That thing we see moving back there has suction cups on it?
Yep.
So it'll pick that steel up, transport it over there, then that's where the cut actually gets done on that back part.
Yep, so the suction cups are laying the raw steel on that is uncut off of the stack in front of us. The forks on top just unloaded the cut product on the top shelf. So
awesome.
The forks will pick up the parts off the table.
I'm guessing this is about $300-400 machine here?
Yeah, yep, nope. No, this runs about $1.2 million for the whole setup.
Well, that was close. I just forgot a few zeros.
Yeah. Well, that's all right, but it's one of the most important things that keeps our operation running. So,
well, it's just like building a house or anything. If you don't get started off with a good foundation, you fight it all the way through.
That is exactly right.
Having accurately cut pieces has got to be a huge benefit.
It is, and tolerances on a laser give us the ability to have the form, and we also use a design we'll show you later we call slot and tabbing, where we can cut the tabs into our part and cut a slot in the mating part. That way they fit together and hold the accuracy, so it reduces the reliability of a jig having to be accurate. but also just creates that consistency in the part as we build.
Basically removing places for air.
Yep, that is correct.
Awesome.
You bet. So, well, let's continue on here. So as we come here to the left, they're picking the parts, getting those ready to run them across our press brakes. So we have 5 press brakes we run. 2 of them are electric press brakes, which drive a lot of accuracy.
So just to explain a press brake to people that may not know right off the bat, it basically bends these tabs, correct?
Yep, so press brake is taking the flat sheet from the platform, and then they're gonna, on dies, they will bend the angle that you program in to create the form on the part. So
just to show you guys, this is a piece that has not been broke. You can see this come out of the laser with all the detail notched in it.
Yep.
This is one they have actually broke. You can see it's bent nice and neat. And I'm assuming with the tooling you got, the accuracy is probably superb.
Yep, within a couple thousand, so, yep. And then on this machine here, we got lift tables.
You guys build your own press brake, or did you just rebrand somebody?
But we definitely create branding within our employees. So culture
awesome.
is big to us. So
That's
the
important.
employees like to have the brand all around them, and also I like it because it reminds them of who we are, what we're doing, and who our customer
I've only been here for a short period of time, and this is a long ways from the family farm, but you can definitely tell there's still a family atmosphere here, which is pretty doggone cool.
That is a big part of the culture we want to drive is the family atmosphere. So.
Yeah, it's apparent that somebody just showed up on the site.
All right, so some of the other things we do down here is we will fold our parts. So we've got a folder. So the white machine here down around the corner.
So I have to ask, what's the difference between a folder and a brake?
So a folder, in theory, folds the part. A press brake will push the part in, the folder will bend it around. So basically you build the operation backwards. So we utilize the folder for our MTT tanks, which are what will be on the trailer you're receiving and purchasing, but we'll stick the part in, and the long arm in front of you will come up and bend the part around instead of the top die coming down and pushing a bend into the part.
So basically, this part right here is going to hinge up versus over there where he's at, that piece comes down and shoves it into a die, correct?
That is correct.
So this would be more what I'd call a traditional brake in the construction world. But
that is accurate. So,
very neat, clean, organized facility.
Well, cleanliness leads towards employee retainment as well as safety. So safety is one of our biggest goals on a daily basis. So if you can keep the area clean and organized, that helps. So
you guys are well on your way.
So next we'll start transitioning down into the weld department. We'll walk around the corner here. Step behind you, Ryan. Thank you.
So this area we just walked through here, I'm assuming this is basically just inventory waiting to be
This is just completed inventory from our fab department in transition. So we run a Kanban system of inventory in between, try to keep our WIP very low as to make sure as much of our production space is utilized for production. So here he's bringing some bulk hose down, restocking the warehouse.
I don't think a lot of people realize in manufacturing how important inventory management is.
Oh, it's critical.
It's huge.
It's critical, and in the last 2 years, it's been exposed to its full extent. So
I agree with that.
Your relationship with your vendors becomes one of the most critical things you have to make sure that you're communicating when you've got downtimes, supply shortages, but also making sure you're communicating your needs, or in our situation, our growth that we're experiencing, that our vendor knows what we're doing, what we're planning, and are they able to keep up with us along the way and give them as much notice as we can.
The other flip side of that is if you have it, it's no good if you don't know where it's at.
Exactly.
Yeah, I fight that a lot on a whole different scale with what I got. I know I got X, Y, or Z here, but you spend as much time looking for it as what it's worth, it kind of defeats the purpose.
That's right, and we offer a lot of options on our trailers, so by the time it gets down to the end, you'll see there's a lot of different things that have to come together, and until it meets everything the customer asked for, that trailer's not complete.
Exactly,
so,
in a timely fashion.
That's right. So, all right, so we want to head this way. So here's our production offices. This is where all the management happens, from procurement to planning to inventory, and then our service department lives up there. Now we're entering our weld department.
So I feel like we are going from different buildings. I'm assuming this shows the growth of the company. If you outgrew that building, entered a new one, and from what I've seen with some construction around here, that's continued to happen.
Yep, so the building our lasers were in actually was a farm building, a pole barn that was built in the 1970s that we converted over for housing our laser. This building we added on.
And I think we should point out, just because we're on the family farm, this is not a family farm operation. I mean, this is state-of-the-art manufacturing at its best right here.
Yep, our job is to try to keep up with the new things coming to the industry to make sure that we can build the best product for our customers we can.
I don't think you're keeping up with them. I think you're setting the standard there.
We're trying. All right, so this part of our welding here, we got Mike here is building some bumpers, and Jordan over here is building the toolbox. So we've learned our jigs create our repeatability. Our repeatability puts the trailers together and drives the accuracy for the service down the road.
So you guys developed these jigs, developed this process. This is all an in-house operation?
Yep, we've got our own jigs and tooling department that take our product from models, then figure out where do we have to put the modularity and everything in it for the jigs to make sure that we have the repeatability.
Now, for as many trailers as you guys pop out, I figured we'd seen dozens of these guys.
Nope, we've got about a dozen total people in our weld department, but we try to leverage our weld staff, as our market is difficult to find welders, by adding robotics to our process. So this is one of the only processes you'll see down here that has not got an influence of robotics into it.
Looks very efficient, very well laid out, nice flow.
Yep. So,
and this is where all those laser cut parts and all the precise bending pays off.
As you can see
with the
here,
fitment of all that stuff.
You can see here with this part, Mike was in the process. It's hot, but I got the slot and the tab and dropping it right in so that Mike doesn't have to pull his tape measure. He knows exactly where the part's got to be, so it's in the same spot every time. So
awesome.
We do that all over in our trailers to try to keep that repeatability. So now that I pulled it out, he'll put it back in. The next part over here, this is one of my favorite processes in our shop. So this is our robotic cell for our MCT tank.
Okay.
So as you know, on the trailer you're buying, you've got 6 different tanks that are all in the 120 gallon capacity. So we weld a lot of those tanks in a week for all of our customers. So here we've got a jig where they'll put the 2 parts together. We got a 2 clamshell tank system. They'll tack it all up and then they'll load it in the robot here. So we'll come here behind James, maybe from the back side and show, but they'll pick this tank up and then he'll load it into our robot cell here. And then when he loads it in, he basically presses go, and that robot will weld all the inches of weld on that tank. So the robot creates accuracy by the fact it comes and finds the seam, locates the seam, and then welds that seam. And we know exactly the size of weld we're getting off and the placement. So it helps control our leaks through the repetition. So,
and I'm assuming once it's welded out, there's some sort of pressure or leak test on it.
Yep, so once James gets done, he pulls it out. We've got a stack of tanks sitting over here that are complete welded. These tanks are all getting cleaned, and then they'll pressure check them over here. So we'll put 4 PSI on the tanks, and we'll hold it for 5 minutes to make sure there's no leak down, and then we'll also back it up with a soap test.
So this is the heart and soul of a Thunder Creek trailer right here.
Yep, from the MTT version, this is what hauls the fluid. So, you bet.
I'm not for sure if man behind the scenes can compete with the robot. That's a pretty slick looking weld there.
It's pretty nice.
I think you got a pretty well trained robot over there somewhere.
We do, and it takes those operators knowing exactly what to expect to train the system and then inspect it. So, like anything, a robot can have a bad day, but our operators are going to catch it if it does.
The other thing is you may have a robot over at Welding, but look at all the jobs you still have around here keeping them working.
Yep, robotics creates a great opportunity for our weld staff to come in, start as a welder, but then it gives them a progression up that they have the ability to start operating the robot, and then the next phase could be programming the robot and some of that. So figuring out how to create those opportunities for our employees to continue to grow is also something we're trying to do.
Pretty cool.
So
pretty cool.
Yep. All right, shall we move down to the frame process and see the framework starting?
Absolutely.
So here, Mike, this is where we start our frame process. So the Thunder Creek brand is built from ground up, and everything on the product is built in-house from the metal products. So here,
being a novice, I would have assumed you would have went out and just sourced a trailer manufacturer to provide chassis for you, and you put your stuff on them.
Nope. When Thunder Creek started, that was one of the things we wanted to make sure to control is the strength of our product is built in the frame. And as you mentioned earlier, product is only as good as the foundation, and our frame is part of our foundation. So this is where we talked about earlier. We use the location tab method. Every one of these cross channels is critical where it's at to create the strength in the trailer. So the operators know right where to put it. So then we'll utilize purposes of the curvature and a back plate to add the length of our trailer and tie it all together.
So basically the purpose of this is to adjust the length of the trailer, but keep this part standard, correct?
Yep, the front clip is standard on all of our flagship products. And then MTT 690 or 920, the back channel will be a different length. So this way, this part is always the same. Then they can add the different back lengths in as they, depending on which order of trailer is coming through the process.
And this goes back to people, things like these are the keys to manufacturing, to provide different products and still keep the cost down.
Yep.
That's the ultimate goal with this setup.
Helps us keep our inventory control, make our inventory as flexible as we can, and allows us repeatability.
So these guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but these are guys that are basically assembling a trailer frame, which I'm absolutely astounded by how many cross members are in this thing. Assembling a trailer frame on a jig or a fixture is what you would call it.
Yep.
So they now clamp this all together and it heads out for welding, is that correct?
Yep, they will clamp this all together. They'll throw some strategic tacks in here to hold it together, and then they'll pull it out of this fixture, and then they'll move it to the other end here, and they'll load it into our robot. So this is a robot that we fabricated in-house and designed to meet this need. But it is welding, looks like an FST 750 frame. So as you can see, it's moving around and placing all the welds.
So how long, just out of curiosity, how long does it take this robot to weld out a frame?
It'll take about 35 minutes to weld off an entire frame.
And I'm assuming that's pretty comparable to how long it takes these guys to get one set to fix it?
Yep. These guys will run about 30 minutes on average. And it depends on, an MTT frame will take longer as we put more cross channels in there, and so forth. But yeah, they time out pretty close.
So that's basically 2 frames an hour.
Yep, that is correct. Yep. Oh, you crossed the line.
Oh, sorry.
Seth will reset it quick. So there's a light curtain there, and you must have just broke it with your elbow.
I figured there was one somewhere. I'll try to stay out of it.
That's the safety we talk about.
So, you guys don't know, there's a receiver or sender over there, and there's one here. And basically, if anybody crosses that line, which apparently my elbow did, sorry about that, Chad.
Luckily, Mike didn't do it inside of a weld, so it was in between welds. Therefore, our quality is still where it needs to be. So,
pretty neat.
Yep, this is one of the things I'm most proud of. Our team put this all together, designed it, and made it work. So
you absolutely should be proud of that. That's building a small grade control instrument for a dozer one time. I know that's elementary compared to this, but wow.
There's a lot of communication that has to happen to make that work. So.
That machine's only as smart as you tell it to be.
That is correct.
So this would be a completed welded frame here, correct?
The final assembly of a frame before it gets a tank or rails added to it. So
and here's that.
Yep, there's
right
the
there.
splice channel, and then you can see on the back side, we back our splice channel up for welding on both sides to get that load spread out and get the strength put back into it. So
I'm assuming nothing on top is welded because the tanks need to set flat on there?
Yep. On our FST product line, the tank will sit flat on the top of the frame and it'll get welded to it. On our MTT, we'll weld our mounting channels on, and then those tanks will bolt onto the mounting channels. So these are two FST frames sitting here. So
very nice.
Yep. So over here is where our FST tank process starts.
So FST, you care to maybe just give a brief explanation of what that is?
So it's our fuel and service trailer for our ag division.
Okay.
So Thunder Creek started out with our ag products in 2009. Our EV product line closely represents what that ag product was, but as it's evolved, our FST is the latest and greatest, and it represents basically all the things you can do with a fuel trailer in our ag. So it handles fuel on the bulk side at either 500, 750, or 990 gallons.
So correct me if I'm wrong here, but these guys are basically setting these panels and these fixtures.
Yep.
Tack welding them together.
Yep.
And then they're going back to another robot.
The same thing, our FSTs have a lot of inches of weld built into them with all the weld that we put into our tank to create the strength. So they'll tack it up there, and then we use robots to weld these tanks off. So there's two robots here that'll work in unison to fully weld the FST tank off.
Did you guys also build and develop this as well?
We bought a used robot and we designed modifications to it to make it work for what we're trying to do here. So as we're kind of bucking the industry trend that we build a square by design tank, to get the strength out of our product we do, it comes down to our material that we select and the way we engineer our tank to be put together to keep that tank from cracking or failing for our customers. So, and we're pretty proud of our FST tank line. With our product line, the FST version that we've had since 2015, we've had less than 10 tanks that have come back for a crack or failure. So
that's pretty impressive. I'm guessing there's thousands and thousands of tanks.
We've got multiple thousands of them out there. So the team cares about what they do, and that makes a big difference.
I know it's not good for my eyes, but I could probably sit here and watch that robot weld all day.
Yep. As long as you're not staring at the beam, it helps. But that's one of the things with robotics is they weld faster and they can weld a little hotter because of their speed, so they can put off a pretty intense beam. So
they're just mesmerizing to watch.
Oh, they are. They are. So here, just like on our MTT tanks, our FST, they will do a pressure check on our tank. We'll pressure check our large tanks up to 5 PSI. So they're getting ready to seal them now. Put the pressure, they will seal check them, pressure check them prior to putting them on the frame. That way they make sure there's no leaks on the bottom. Then they'll bring one of the frame chassis that we were looking at back there, and they'll set it on top, and then they'll weld it down to the frame. And then our final phase over here is pressure check and cleanup.
So this is the point where it starts to look like a trailer.
This is the point where it starts to look like a trailer. So this is one of our FST chassis hooked up to our frame. So the guys have gone through, they've pressure checked it, and then they've done their cleaning process to prepare it for paint.
So am I correct in stating that that tank is welded directly to the frame?
That tank is welded directly to the frame. So
the trailer becomes one unit.
Our trailer becomes one unit. We do that by design to create the strength and make sure that our frame is tied to our tank for the support. So
And no concern about cracking from the trailer twisting or going up and down the road, just not an issue.
By running on our torsion axles, we designed our frame to have minimal flex into it to hold the integrity of the tank together. So we want that flexing to go down into the axles, not up into our framework. So
that is definitely impressive for sure.
And then behind you, Mike, here's the base work of an MTT. So just like your trailer, that'll be the mounting rails that the multiple tanks will bolt down on and secure down to the trailer.
I'm just astounded by how, I don't know how else to say this, but that's not a cheap built trailer. That's a very well built frame.
No, at Thunder Creek we believe in strength and quality. So
I've got equipment trailers with less cross members.
I'm gonna bet so. Our products don't get babied. When they get sold, they get used. Anywhere from being in the oil fields in Texas to the commercial harvesters up in the Dakotas. They get a lot of miles put on them in less than ideal conditions. So, all right, shall we move on to paint?
So just to recap here real quick, if I'm correct, we come down this way. Over there is where all the lasers are at.
That's
we
correct.
whipped around, that side over there is all the welding.
Yep.
Made a big U, and now we are coming back kind of where we started at, or where we intersected ourselves. And it smells like this might be the paint department.
We're getting real close. So on the right side of us here, this is where we do our prep work. So we'll come up around the corner, and this is where we do the phosphatizing rinse on our paint surfaces prior to going in. So the guys will do a wash down process, and then they'll, as you can see here, they're inspecting the trailers, the tanks, to make sure they're smooth, doing any final touch-ups. This is one of the most critical processes here, because if we don't get it right here, the paint gets applied, and this is what the customer sees.
It's a lot harder to go backwards from this point.
Yep, it is. So this team does a lot of quality work.
So basically this here is a wash bay,
Yep.
for lack of better explanation.
Yep, that's basically our wash bay where we wash it down. Phosphatizer basically opens up the pores of the metal, allows the paint to hook, and then they blow dry the product off and do another inspection process.
So once it comes out of the wash bay, we're basically in this area here where they're doing any final touch-ups, final inspections.
Yep.
And then from here, I'm assuming that's the paint booth right there in front of us.
Yep, they'll do their final inspections, and we'll apply our caulk to the seams. So any seams that aren't welded, we will caulk seal them to keep the moisture out and the rust controlled. So then it'll go on the line, it'll go into our primer booth.
I think one other thing worth pointing out is you make sure you got all the tanks are capped off, plugged off.
Yep, we seal it so that we don't get any paint or contaminants inside the tank.
Just out of curiosity, is there anything you do to seal the inside of the tank?
We do not. So we choose to utilize pickle and oiled material, which helps preserve the steel on the inside and gives it years of protection until that tank is lubricated with the diesel fuel.
So the thought process is the choice of steel and the diesel fuel protects the inside of the tank.
Yep, diesel will create its own lubricity once it's in use, but just choosing that steel up front to make sure that it doesn't get rusty by the time the customer uses it is what's critical. So this here is our paint area. So this is where all the top coating ends up happening onto our product. So if you take a quick peek in here, here's a finalized trailer, and you can see the gloss that we try to get on our product to create a smooth covering for our customers to make sure the product stays clean, but also give as close to that automotive finish as we can with an industrial painting process.
So I know black and gray are your two primary colors, right?
Yep, gray is our standard color. If you do not select an optional color, the trailer will get painted gray, but we do offer black, white, a red, a construction yellow and ag yellow, as well as a green and a blue. So those are our standard options that you can upgrade to if you would like to choose something other than gray.
And I think you mentioned it before, but this is all automotive grade paint?
We do an industrial grade paint, so we paint a polyurethane paint, but we're trying to push it as close to an automotive finish as we can by our gloss levels and our smoothness features. So
you fooled me.
Yeah, that's our
plan
goal.
is working, Chad.
That is our goal. So, but not the polyurethane does a great job holding up to the rock chips and the abrasion resistance that our customers can experience being a towed trailer.
I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole here, but you know, powder coating is a big thing, and I had a powder coated trailer, and that's probably one of my bigger disappointments. That does not hold up near as well as what you think it would in that application.
So powder coat has its positives, definitely. I don't want to speak bad about powder coat, but
exactly,
when you're painting a tank, making sure you get adhesion all around that tank is critical, and a tank acts as an insulator, so therefore powder coating has a hard time for it melting on and adhering to the metal in a situation in the aspect like what we're doing for our production. So better than that, our product all goes through the oven. After it's painted, gets a half-hour bake on it, so that within a half hour of being out of the oven, it's ready for us to bring right onto the assembly line and start working on it.
So going back, you mentioned a half an hour again, and going back to the frame rack over there, is that kind of the factory flow, is trying to get everything to move forward about every 30 minutes or so?
That is our target in everything we're doing, is that every cycle, or we try to get a trailer into a cycle, that every half hour it keeps moving.
Gotcha.
So part of our manufacturing process is to try to balance all the departments and the times to equal the same, or break the processes out so that we can keep that all moving in a real streamlined place.
I know in manufacturing like this, even with like we talked about with parts and inventory, timing is everything.
It is. It's very critical. And if there's something ever wrong, it's that the team is attacking that right away and solving that problem to keep it moving.
So again, I want to point out, I don't know if people realize how big a deal this is, but you don't source fenders, you make fenders.
Yep.
You don't source frames, you make frames. I mean, you guys manufacture a lot of stuff right here on site.
Yep, we work to keep as much as we can, like we said, to be able to keep the process moving.
Are you sure that's not automotive paint?
Yep. So our fenders match our decals, so we do a little flake in our fenders that give it that Thunder Creek stripe that we're proud of.
I'm no paint expert, but I'm impressed.
I appreciate that.
I painted a few things in my day. Nothing's ever looked that good.
Yeah. Careful, if you've painted before, I might hire you. So, all right, so then once we get done with paint, here's our awesome assembly department. So these guys are where they make the magic happen of all the work of everything else we've seen start coming together. So we utilize car lifts to be able to get the product up in the air, to put the products on ergonomically. It also allows us to make sure we can access our wiring. So you can see the guys are installing a set of fenders right now, and then they got a set of axles ready to roll in and put underneath. So
the flow from here would be come out of paint, and then would this be the first step?
Yep. This is what we call stage one of assembly. Okay. So he starts off by installing the tanks, which this is a MTT, so they installed the 6 tanks onto the trailer. Now they're bolting the fenders on. They'll put the axles on next, and then he'll finish all of his wiring underneath.
And you mentioned this before, all torsion spring axles?
All torsion axles, yep.
And just to explain that real quick, there's no leaf springs. If I'm correct, there's a big rubber block in here, and this hinges, and that's where you get your suspension movement.
So there's a square shaft welded to the trailing arm, and there's a length of 3 rubber dowels placed in the corners of the tube, and the durometer of those dowels create the strength of the axle. So when you hit a bump, the axles are independent, that this one will move up and down according to the compression on the rubber in there.
I don't know how to say this nicely or tactfully, but I want to point out one thing out. This is one thing you don't build in-house, you source, correct?
We sort. They're all Dexter axles.
But this is not a Chinese axle.
No, this is all Dexter axles, which is the leading name in the industry. We like to work with Dexter because the parts of the axles can all be sourced at any auto parts store all around. So if somebody does need a set of brakes, or if they need something repaired on the axle, they can definitely call us. We will have parts to service, but it also allows the ability that they can get that trailer up and moving as quick as they can. And
I cannot stress how big a deal that is from a guy that's dealt with multiple different random axle manufacturers.
Yep.
That's big.
Yep. That's something that we try to think about in all the products that we're doing. How quick can we keep the uptime for the customer if an issue does come up? So. All right.
So tanks first, fenders, axles.
Yep. Then once they get that done, the trailer will move on to what we'll call stage 2. So we'll kind of sneak through the area here a little bit. So before they get to stage 2, we've got all of our sub-assemblers over here. This crew does all the work to make sure all the parts are ready to bolt onto the trailer. So Chris is building an EV DEF system for our EV product line here. Desiree and Jeff are building our hose reels and a meter system that'll go onto a trailer. Then we got Trevor building MTT valve system down there, and the DEF systems and front toolbox kits down at the end. So we try to break it up, as we mentioned earlier, into different processes. That way we can all keep that timing moving.
So just to kind of explain this in layman's terms a little bit, you guys got the trailer going down through here being assembled.
Yep.
You got things that need to be assembled to be put on the trailer.
Yep.
Then they're kind of marrying each other as they go down through there.
This next phase, they'll marry them together. So that is right. And we send all of our trailers down the same assembly line.
I'm impressed with, I don't know what this looks like on camera, but this is not a huge space.
Yep.
But you guys got it very well organized, and the flow definitely down to a science.
There's a lot happens.
Yeah, there is.
And as you can see, it's getting a little tight. As we get to the end here, I'll show you we're adding 25,000 square foot on to create more space for our assembly department for our added growth, and also to support our growing product line of our MTUs with our truck chassis that are gaining traction as well. So
one thing I see being assembled over here is these solenoid blocks, and this is kind of a crucial little unspoken piece or part of these trailers.
So yep, this is a big part of what creates our MTT product line and what makes it hazmat compliant. So over here, the one you're looking at, Mike, that's the option of the electric manifold option, which is an upgrade. Trevor's right now putting together a valved manifold option. So we offer it 2 different ways. But what we're doing by that is creating the hazmat compliance by isolating each one of our tanks into 150 or 119 gallons minimum. So when you go to transport down the road, you shut every valve off, and that makes it compliant. The nice part about our upgradable electric option, when you shut our doors, there's a switch that kills the power to all the valves that automatically shuts them off. So if your operator forgets to shut a valve, the electric option automatically makes you compliant, versus if you leave one valve open driving down the road, that makes it non-compliant.
And just to give a quick explanation, this is a valve that's open and closed by electricity.
Yep.
This is a valve that's open and closed manually. Basically, they serve the same purpose.
Yep.
One of them you manually do, the other one you flip a switch or
yep.
make a choice. So.
Yep, there's a switch bank in the trailer that you can tell which tank you want to pull your fluid from.
I just think it's important to point that out from a DOT compliance standpoint. That's kind of one of the key features that makes that happen.
It is, and as we started out with the manual option, the electric option has been gaining a lot of traction from businesses that have multiple customers who aren't owner-operators, that it prevents that liability that their operator could make a mistake and get a ticket in that situation. So kind of create some fail-safe to it.
Let's face it, it happens to all of us.
It happens to all of us.
I'm not immune from it. This is basically the decal station, which means we're getting close, right?
That means we're wrapping up to the end of the trailer where they're putting the decals on and they're going to do their final inspection. But one of the most critical things we do for our industrial customers on the MTT side, as we have a lot more fittings hoses, is we do a PDI process before we consider the trailer complete.
And for people who don't know, PDI, pre-delivery inspection, correct?
Pre-delivery inspection. So before we ship, what we're doing is we're running the trailer with fluids in it. So being the trailer is hazmat compliant, having a little bit of diesel fuel in the trailer when it ships is not an issue. On an ag product, we have to ship the trailers dry to be able to transport them on a shipping truck. But in MTT, we can wet every tank with fluid, test all the hoses, and pump through it to make sure that we have no leaks, and that our performances are in check with what our tolerances are. So here Don has put 115 gallons in and pumped from every tank to the next tank to make sure that all the electric valves work, that there's no leaks in the system, and that the motor runs at the performance that we expect it to.
And just to recap real quick, here's that valve assembly he was assembling over there. This is the electronic version, correct?
Yep.
Hose reels they were assembling. This is what it looks like.
Fuel system, here's your DEF hose reel, and then your DEF tank and system underneath. And if we come around to the other side, so as we mentioned here earlier, so this is the valve bank system. So this is your on off. As you can see, the red, everything is shut off right now. We switch it on and we start open each tank that we want to. When the door shuts and the door switch closes, I'm gonna reach behind you. If you watch the red light,
Everything
kills everything. Power went off, everything went to close, even if the switches say they're on. The red light tells you the switches are all shut off.
I think it's also important to point out how well everything is labeled on here.
Yep, so each tank will have a number on it, each valve will have a number on it, and above every valve has a tank number on it as well, so you can correlate everyone together, and you can empty your trailer in the way in the direction.
So just
you would
to
like
recap a basic operation, these trailers have a gas-powered pump on them.
Yep.
And that's what will actually transfer the fuel from the tank on the trailer to the equipment, correct?
Yep. If I pull the vacuum system off a minute here, we can see. So an upgradable option on the trailers is the 40-gallon a minute pump on FST. It'll run about 32 on the MTTs as we're sucking through the manifold. But
I think it's worth pointing out, most of the guys that run a tank in the back of their truck are either pumping 12 or 15 gallons. Some of the guys are pumping 25 and not very many.
Yep, so
this
that's what the pump's rated at. You're normally going to be 5 to 6 gallons underneath that.
Right, so we're moving way more fuel a lot faster.
This one, the beautiful part about this one is I call it variable speed. So by running the throttle, you're either able to fill up a little piece of equipment like a skid loader that can't accept very much flow at say 8 to 10 gallon a minute, or if you want to fill a dozer, you can throttle it all the way up and fill it 30 gallon a minute. So that's a big feature in my opinion versus the standard option is the electric pump, which is going to be a 25 gallon a minute GPI pump that you got an on-off switch, and the flow you get is the flow you're always going to get.
Gas powered for the fuel transfer, electric for the DEF.
Yep.
And you guys got some pretty cool stuff about how you can fill DEF as well, right? Maybe we can cover this in a little bit later. I don't want to jump ahead of you, but
nope, you're all right. So the DEF system, we've got a 2-in-1 DEF system. So the nice thing about what we do is by unhooking the nozzle, you've got a quick coupler system built on our DEF system. We automatically send with you the Micromatic that you can put on top of a drum or a tote. So you hook that system up, you put that on your tote, and you press the tank fill button and walk away. It will automatically suck the DEF out of the tote, fill the tank. When the tank gets full, it'll shut the pump off. Then when you're done, you got a resting spot that you can put the coupler with you, hook back up to your nozzle.
You're ready to fill the equipment.
Put in the tank dispense mode, and you can fill your equipment.
Again, nicely labeled.
Yep. And by doing that, the biggest thing we're trying to solve is controlling the contamination.
That's huge with DEF.
With DEF, contamination is one of the biggest risks that can cause equipment failure. So by eliminating the DEF fluid to be exposed to the environment helps control that. So. And
not to get sidetracked here, the whole purpose of this station is you guys go through and test every switch, every button, every line, every hose, everything. Our
intent of this is to make sure that the first use of the customer is satisfactory, that it's going to do what they expected and do what they paid for when they bought the trailer. So
I know it don't sound like a huge deal tightening up a hose clamp. Whenever you get something new, you just want to hit the key and go.
Yep, that's exactly it. We don't want our customer to find a leak. We want to know if there was a leak or something that possibly was not manufactured to spec in the process.
Well, Chad, we've seen it all. What an impressive facility. Trailer's getting ready to roll out the door. I'm assuming that's it?
that's about it. So one last thing we've got is the addition that we're adding on. So as you mentioned earlier, we are getting tight on space. We've got a lot of customers voting for our product. So out here, we're investing in another 25,000 square feet that'll become our new assembly department. Part of it, as I mentioned, is for that MTU growth, which is our truck product line.
I think that's something worth mentioning. I didn't even know you guys offered that, but basically to explain that a little bit, that's not a trailer-based system, that's a truck-based system, correct?
It's a truck-based system that we basically take the same concept as our MTT trailer, but we're going to mount it on a truck chassis. So it's something that in the last year with truck availability has been a challenge. As you can see behind me here, we've got a backlog of customers, but trucks are starting to come in, so we're getting ready.
I think that's going to be a lot bigger in the industrial or commercial world than probably the farm world, because those guys run fuel a lot more than what the ag guys do. But
it is, and a lot of dedicated fuel providers will utilize it a lot more in metropolitan areas where getting around is tough and so forth. So I've got a lot of customers out there who are really excited about that product and putting it to use. So,
well, I hear a rumor that there might be a trailer around here that belongs to me.
There's one, I believe. I mean, I don't know if it stands out very much, but just a little bit. So let's kind of walk this way, and then I'll let Aaron take over and show you what he put together for you guys.
All right, well, Chad, I'm sure we'll see you again, man. But
yeah,
this
thanks,
is
Mike,
absolute awesome facility, and it's just cool to see how it started with humble roots with your family and growing into what it is. And obviously, you got some amazing people working here. It's I've toured a few factories. This is definitely a top-notch facility.
Well, and I'll share from Lauren, Gene, and Luke and I, the ownership group. Thank you to you, and thank you to all of our customers out there who support what we do and appreciate the product that we're putting out there for them.
It's an honor to be here, and I think your sales staff probably has it made, because this is one of those products that sell itself.
Well, I try to teach our production staff that our job every day is to create the quality that our salespeople go out there and communicate, but let the product show itself, that they're creating the relationships. We got to make sure the product makes it easy for them.
Well, you guys are doing a great job. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we have switched out Chad for Aaron.
Hey, Michael, how
Got
are you?
the name right.
You did. That's all right.
Real quick, what's your position here at the company?
Yeah, so I'm the marketing manager. I get to do all the fun stuff.
You get to deal with all those crazy social media influencers?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We enjoy it quite a bit.
You don't have to lie. They know
I'm not, man.
We can be divas, you know.
So slightly.
You guys have had tremendous success working with other influencers.
Yeah.
You can warm them up and mention if you want. I know you've been with Millennial Farmer and Larson's and Brian, and I'm sure I'm forgetting people. Todd. Dirt
Ninja, yeah, but we're real excited to partner with you and see where this thing goes.
Well, here somewhere around here you've got a trailer with possibly my name on it.
You bet. So we had a lot of fun with this one. Your brand, your design.
Oh, look at
got it all plastered all over the side.
This is my first time seeing this thing.
Yep.
Cow.
So yeah, we took kind of the creative genius behind Dirt Perfect and tried to do our best with it and give you some justice. So.
I'm not gonna lie, I think out of all of them you put out so far, I may be a little biased. I think this might be the best looking one yet. I mean, the green and the black just pop.
Yeah. You made it easy for us. That's for sure.
Man, that is a good looking trailer. Well, you want to give us the rundown?
You bet, man.
Let us know what options
we'll
we got.
Start up front up here. We've gone over some of the options inside there, but for your unit specifically, the front box here.
I guess it's worth mentioning, how customizable are these trailers? I mean, you guys offer a lot of different options.
Yeah, we can do a lot of different things with them. Everything from just your basic platform with just fuel to adding grease, def, obviously on this one. In the back, we have options for generators, workbenches, toolboxes. This platform we can customize with a few different things. We can do reclaim, we can do oil, fresh oil, coolant, antifreeze.
So pretty much everything but gas.
Yeah.
Gas is the one item that we can't tote in these.
Correct. But yeah, yours specifically, we have our 100-gallon def system up front here. Gas-powered pump right here. And your electric valve manifold. I think you guys went over that in the factory.
Pretty similar to what we've seen.
How that works.
Yep.
This thing's a lifesaver. Electric hydraulic jack. Never have to crank again.
Unless the battery goes dead, don't jinx it.
No, we got a solar battery maintainer on top.
I led you right into a sales
thought of everything. That's for sure. But 690 gallons of fuel capacity. So each of those are in separate tanks, 115 gallons each. So keeps you hazmat compliant. And then in the back here, got your compressor generator combo.
Nice. So this was a big deal for us, especially running the off-road truck now. It seems like we're always fighting for air.
Yeah.
It's always nice to have power on the job from time to time. The grease system, greasing a lot of equipment, gets old, changing tubes all the time. So everybody on the crew is pretty excited about this whole setup. And you guys still got room in here. We can kind of customize that ourselves a little bit with some toolboxes and stuff. So
put a lot of stuff back here.
I'm excited, guys. I am.
I hope it works out for you.
Excited. I know it's not a camper, Mrs. Dirt Perfect, but
Surprise!
maybe with a little bit of luck, this will pay for your camper. All right. Well, guys, I can't thank you enough, man. What an awesome trip. What an awesome trailer. We're going to get this thing home, put it to work.
Make it work for you, man.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
For anybody looking for more information on these trailers, I'll be sure to link their website down below in the description. You can find anything from their full product line, product specifications, and dealer locator on there. So head on over and check it out. I cannot thank all the individuals at Thunder Creek Equipment enough for their hospitality and generosity of their time. Jen and I thoroughly enjoyed our time there, thoroughly enjoyed our visit with all the individuals we met. But it is time to head back home and put this thing into service. So if you guys want to see this thing in action, I'd consider subscribing so that way we can catch you guys on the next one. Later. This Thunder Creek Manufacturing? Or
This is Thunder
like
Creek LDJ.
Horrible. We gotta get this right. Yeah, this is the most important part of the video right here.
Don't be a chair. Don't be a chair.